Okay, today we're going to look at Heart of Darkness, which is a very famous book by Joseph Conrad. We probably won't finish the whole chapter, but we'll have a look at the text and have a look at some of the words he uses and what they mean. So here we go with chapter 1. The Nelly. So we can tell by the capital N that is a proper noun, it's the name of something. And a cruising yawl, so it's a cruising yawl, which is an unusual word, but it means some sort of boat. So it means, if you want to be technical, it means a tube-masted fore and aft-rigged sailing boat. So it's got two masts, and this is what they're going to use to sail to Africa. So it swung to her anchor without a flutter of the sails and was at rest. So there's no wind. We can tell that because the sails aren't fluttering, so they can't set off. The flood had made. That means that the tide has come in. Got to remember this is a 19th century book, so some of the phrases aren't things that we would use every day today, although they're still interesting phrases that it would be great if you could use. It would be great to say, the flood has made, when you see that the tide is up in London. The wind was nearly calm, and being bound down the river, the only thing for it was to come to and wait for the turn of the tide. So they can't set off because they need the tide to be in the right direction before they can go. The sea reach of the Thames stretched before us like the beginning of an interminable waterway. So it is a waterway, so that's fair enough. Interminable, that means endless or apparently endless. So, of course, in one way, the Thames is most definitely has an end because it reaches the sea, but then the water continues and is interminable, goes on and on. In the offing, now the offing is a very meteorological term to do with the weather and the sea. Actually, it's just to do with the sea, I think. The more distant part of the sea. So it's something that's going to happen in the future, that we use it in everyday life. So it's in the offing, it's coming up. In the offing, the sea and the sky were welded together. So welded together means they're joined together. Welding is a way of joining together metal parts by heating it. It melts and then joins up together. So they're welded together without a joint. And then the luminous space. Now, luminous refers to giving off light, being bright or shining. So in the bright shining space, the tanned sails, that's a colour, a yellowish brown colour, of the barges drifting up with the tide seemed to stand still in red clusters of canvas. A cluster, that's a group of similar things or people positioned or all close to each other. So red clusters of canvas sharply peaked with gleams of varnished spirits. A haze rested on the low shores that ran out to sea in vanishing flatness. Or vanishing refers to something that's disappearing. So it's disappearing. Flatness, of course, is something that's level. It doesn't have any raised areas, so it just goes on and on. The air was dark above Gravesend. Or again, Gravesend we can see is a proper noun, and that is a place on the Thames in London, or just outside London. And farther back still seemed condensed into a mournful gloom. Mournful is to do with mourning, which is when you're feeling of sadness, regret or grief. Brooding, that's a good word, brooding. That's engaged in or showing deep thought about something that makes one sad, angry or worried. So it's a mournful gloom, a worrying, motionless over the biggest and the greatest town on earth. Okay, that's the first bit. It's a great novel, isn't it? It's full of interesting words. My favourite amongst those, I think, is The Offing. The Offing is definitely something that we use in English. something's in the offing, it means you're hoping it's going to happen. So I should definitely try and use that as much as you can.